Hey, 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 folks. So I'm just giving a little space to breathe, seeing who's in the space. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, 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 hey. Hi. How y'all doing? It's a Saturday night. Y'all know that I'm resting. So I decided I wanted to come on here and talk to y'all just for a little bit, not too long. Trying to hydrate with my water, trying to just take it easy. Hi, Wonder Woman. Hi, Wonder Woman 24. Hey, girl. Hey. I mean, I'm assuming girl. Hey. I don't know if that's your preferred gender pronouns. We live in a world where we need to be much more intentional and cautious about how we engage people. So, mm, how are y'all doing this evening? I'm just checking, making sure all my things are connected. Um, and un momento, por favor, before we kick this off. How is everyone doing tonight? Let's do a little temp check in. Now, of course, this cat waits until I get on. This cat waits till I get on the main line to decide that they gonna that they need out, you know? Ciao. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. Let me let the cat out because you know how the cats are. You know how the cats are. If you don't let the cats out of the room, then they're gonna tear stuff up. Let me let the cat out. I know, baby. I know. I know. I know. Go ahead. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. You know. Um So I wanted to, my streams unfortunately are not very well attended anymore. They haven't been for, I want to say, years at this point, maybe 2 or 3 years. I've not been able to get the kind of audience that I've had in the past, but it doesn't stop me from coming on here and still talking to y'all anyway. And so I wanted to chat with y'all a little bit as I go through this hysterectomy journey. Um, and as is my way sometimes, um, I, try very much um, to use some of these experiences as springboards for maybe larger conversations that we could have. Um, and the ways in which I have engaged um social media in the last years have changed quite a bit. Um Generally um I think that in the past I was like an oversharer, right? I think upon reflection in the past, Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me get a second because I knew that when I got all, like I went from having like 18,000 followers to suddenly having almost 25,000 followers. And the addition of those several thousand followers are people who look like they present as men, who saw a picture with implied nudity, didn't bother to read the caption, didn't read the room, because in that picture with implied nudity, I have stitches, right? Like I have stitches. I had these band-aids all over. I have stitches. But that does not matter to unfortunately a lot of folks that present as male. Just the idea that they could consume some person's body is enough for them to like come flocking, thinking that they are getting ready to get free access to something that is like sexually charged. And that was not what that was about. I did a PSA and the numbers just kept climbing. And I knew that the first time that I did a live after that, that I was going to get folks from that who would end up in the live, who would be disruptive, who would be asking me to add them. And I gotta, when those things come up, I just have to block. So unfortunately, that has come up. And so we are blocking. So, yeah. Un momento, por favor. In any event, where's the block button? What happens to the block button in the lives? Has that changed as well too? Cause what? They just took away the block button? So I'm supposed to, oh, I'm on the wrong account. That's why. Durr. I'm watching myself from another account. So that could have a lot to do with it. Um, uh Yeah. So in any event, um, I I posted something the other day on my account. Oh, I was talking about, I'm sorry, I got distracted. ADHD brain. Whoo. I posted um uh something pretty personal and vulnerable. Now that's not necessarily a shock for anyone, but I've become a lot more discerning about what I share on social media. The landscape of social media has changed so much in the, I want to say like 30 years that I've been on social media, right? Starting out on like MySpace, Angel Fire, all of the early iterations of social media. I have been here for all of it. I have got to see the changing landscape of social media. And I've decided in terms of like my own personal growth, understanding that social media is not therapy, understanding that even if you are lonely, social media is not community, that there might be some online communities. Hey honey, I am feeling better. Thank you, Patrina. Teresa, we've been hanging, we've been rocking for a while. And is it Teresa or Teresa? Because I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Um, Even if there are some digital online communities, online is not community. And online spaces in the last years have gotten, I want to say, um, more and more calloused. And I think some of that is in with intentional input and crafting of the social media apps that are hosting these platforms, right? We know um we know that Meta in was engaged in intentionally using the platform to see if it could steer public opinion and using it for psychological experimentation. We know this. This is documented. This is not conjecture. We know that there have been the proliferation of rage farms and bot farms. Hi, nephew. I am feeling better. Thank you for asking. Um, and so that has also colored how I come to the space. But the other day, I was feeling particularly vulnerable because I need to be resting. Um, and I am trying to balance that rest with some very real with like some very real reality, right? And I knew that I needed some support to offset a lot of the negative um a lot of the negative uh self-talk that I was having. And so against my better judgment, and because I was feeling desperate, because I was anxious and panicky, I came to social media hoping that I could engage in some sort of like hive mind online community. I have my comments so that not anybody can just comment. And so I thought that I could ask for something. And what that looked like was this. As a working class Black woman, I need to be doing something, right? Um, I, you know what I mean? Like, I don't work, I don't do these things, I get behind, my kids literally do not eat. But there is like this intense feeling in my body right now that is like, bitch, eat your french fries and your chicken wings, watch your TV, and just lay down. Somebody removed your womb. So I know people are like coming to the internet and crying, playing it back is cringy. I don't give a fuck. I would really like some outside external stimuli to help me combat this voice in my head that will not take its foot up off my neck. Um, what happened for me, actually, I have very mixed feelings about. There were people who said some really sweet things to me and gave me exactly what I needed. And I was pretty direct and pretty intentional about asking for what I needed. And what I needed in that moment, because I knew I needed to be resting, I was trying to engage in rest. I knew that the day before I had stretched myself too thin and that my body was telling me to lay down. But physical rest in the absence of mental relaxation is not rest at all. And so when I came to the digital space saying, hey, I need for folks to just tell me that what I'm thinking is wrong, this very interesting thing happened that still has me feeling like maybe I want to take the original video down. One, I was hoping that it could be a larger conversation, a moment where folks could be honest about the ways in which lack of resources, the pressure on Black women, the very real and material pressures on Black women and femmes to constantly be carrying things that, in the face of capitalism, we can't necessarily always put down just because we need or want to. And then I was also hoping that I would get a certain level of kindness and gentleness because it was apparent, at least to me, I thought, but maybe I was wrong, in that video that I was being unduly hard on myself. What actually happened was people engaged me with language that actually did not feel gentle. And I know that sometimes in community, particularly in Black community, we use very spirited language. But to have people be like, sit your ass down, stop, in all bold and capital letters, engaging and telling me things that I clearly expressed that I already knew, I actually felt more isolated. I actually didn't feel held. In fact, I felt like I felt like this idea where we tell Black women to ask for what they need was not happening. And some of that was happening from people that I've had some long-standing relationships with. And so I was a little bit surprised. And I know that things online don't always translate the way that we would hope that they would. Um, but I just actually thought I would get more online. All we got is verbal. You know what I mean? And so I thought that I would get more verbal softness and gentleness than I actually did. And in fact, I felt in some cases, not everyone, there were some people who called me. Shout out to Kende. She called me and just talked to me, um, and just related to me. Um, Shout out to Ebony, who um slid in my inbox and talked about actual material resources that might actually be helpful, that would facilitate actual rest for me. Um uh there were folks who reached out and provided some of that. But I think in my desperation, I will take some accountability that maybe that video or that plea should have been in the group chat, um and not on the internet. And I don't mind, and I have openly shared a, many displays of vulnerability, because I think that too often we live in a world where social media helps to reinforce the mythology, um that to be unbothered is to be um is to be strong, and is to be astute. And it is another way, of many ways, in this capitalist hellscape that we exist in right now, that our humanity is diminished. So I'm not one of those people who shies away from a certain level of um vulnerability. But there's a couple things that I've been reflecting on since internalizing that. And y'all, please, not to, I'm looking at my background now. Not too much on me with the laundry in the corner, okay? But that is actually a really great segue into what I'm about to say. I know that many of us we love this idea that rest is resistance. Many of us can rattle off our favorite memeified analysis around um, rest. But in capitalism, rest requires resources. Part of what I talked about, or part of what was expressed in that video, was the fact that y'all told me to stop driving. I would love to stop driving. Who has the Uber money for my children to get where they need to go? I am an unmarried mother who is recently unnested from my partner. I live in a space where my children must be taken to school, and public transportation is not always feasible, and or for my younger children is not possible. I live in a part of the city where I am not close to people who could immediately help to facilitate that. Transportation is a resource and it costs. I don't think we have enough conversations that when we're engaging people in this, I already knew I needed to rest. The plea was I needed some positive interactions with folks that would help calm my nervous system so that I could rest. I was not looking for lectures on what I should or should not be doing. I'm already informed around that. I'm a reproductive justice activist. I do this work for a living. What I also know is that takeout for 8 people is cost prohibitive consistently. So somebody has to get up and cook. Most of my friends are in similar situations as myself. And you intersect that with being far apart geographically, there is nobody who can come up here and cook for me. But on top of that, with all of these pleas, nobody actually said to me, hey, I can drop by a couple of lasagnas. One of my comrades from an alliance that I am a part of saw the video and then reached out and said, hey, we can give you a gift certificate so that we can cover some of the cost of that. Ebony reached out and was like, I will do a meal train fundraiser for you on your behalf. But I have been very reticent to share that because here is the other thing. We constantly tell Black women to be in community and we tell them to ask them for what they need. But here is what my lived experience and my 30 years on social media, as well as being a Black queer woman who has run a small organization, grassroots organization, for the last 15 years, has shown me. When Black women do ask for help, there's a couple things that happen. Either it goes summarily ignored because one, and I understand, one, there are so many people who are already asking for help that it can feel overwhelming. And so what gets prioritized are the most extreme of those things. So, unless a mother's children have died in a car because they were homeless, you lost your home and all of your belongings in a fire, and even then that's not necessarily guaranteed. Most people are overwhelmed by the sheer amount of asks that they may be encountered in the mutual aid space. I am generally the person who is providing the mutual aid funds. I am generally the person providing the rides. I spend a lot of time in my car dropping things off, picking things up, dropping people off, picking people up, helping to provide logistics for people. And I say this without any kind of bitterness, and without any kind of entitlement. I do not feel entitled to anybody's labor and to anybody's money. But I also would like for people to put in perspective that it is that labor and that money that facilitates rest. I do not have a job where I get a W 4. If I do not meet certain deadlines, if I do not return certain paperwork, if I am not constantly engaging with my fiscal sponsor, if I am not looking at my budget and rearranging things, my children literally do not eat. My car note does not get paid, and my car is critical to my ability to be able to do my work and to get my children around. My car was very recently totaled, and so I am having to use a rental. But that's not anything that I come online to share with people. Because here's the other thing that I realize, that even as I engage in um even as I engage in creating community, even as I engage in the shift in community, I realize that these things are systemic, and until culturally things change because it has been undergirded by systemic change, we got to get it out the mud. That's the reality. And Patrina, you are right. We rest and things go undone. We implore black women and black femmes to rest, and then you take that rest off, and what you come back to are things that have to be that are so that you have to untangle in such a way that um that it actually negates any of the rest that you have done, and where there might actually be some material penalty. Ask me how I know. I have helped to expand and create the language around the ways in which black femme bodies have been extracted for labor. It is not like I do not understand the cost of not resting. Having to have my uterus removed is the cost of living in a society where I always have to be working beyond my capacity. But that if I do not, there will be real detriment to my life and the life of my children. And when we say these things and we ask for help, particularly in the space of mutual aid, back to the things that I say happen, it's either summarily ignored, people start to give you the inquisition. Well, why would you have a surgery if you knew that you had not saved in order to facilitate that surgery? People will even go any deeper. Well, nobody told you to have them kids if you knew that you were not going to have the space that you needed to be able to take care of yourself when these types of things come up. Yeah, everybody becomes um everybody becomes a expert on how one should live their life. Or there are questions around management of existing money and or why you don't have it, or people insinuate that you are using some crisis in your life for a windfall. There have been numerous things that have happened in the last 2 years that have been destabilizing to my life, and I have not asked for mutual aid. In fact, even as I was fundraising last year, I was doing mutual aid on behalf of someone that I did not know, that it just happened to come across my timeline. And I was able to raise over $2,000 for that person, but I couldn't get anybody to actually fund my organization through individual donations. I did not come to this space embittered or entitled. But lack of bitterness doesn't mean that I don't recognize the reality of the landscape of which I exist. Rest requires resources. That's just basic math and capitalism. If I don't do takeout, then I have to task one of my children with cooking while they also manage their extracurricular activities. I have a son who's in his last year of school and preparing for that. I have a daughter who is on track, and that takes up her time 5 days out of the week. And we are trying to prepare her for like national competition and getting on somebody's radar so that this may be something that benefits her in regards to college. With 8 people in a home, if somebody doesn't oversee making sure things get cleaned up, they become untenable very quickly. I cannot afford a housekeeper. Rest requires resources. And again, not embittered in the least, not judging, not entitled. But it was not lost upon me that there were so many people who were willing to tell me boldly and in all caps in very strong language to sit my ass down But very few people actually said, Tanya, what would you need to help sit your ass down? It was interesting to see people be able to run back to me all of the things that I do and use that as evidence of why I needed to chill out. But there were very few people who were like, all of these things have to get done. We know that. So, where are there some gaps that maybe folks can help you with? Is there something that I can help you with? And again, I don't know anybody's story. And so I do not feel entitled, but it's just recognition. And it is a call in to folks to maybe think about these things as we engage other people. That for me really is the message. To have a level of awareness that when we are engaging with folks, to understand the complicated systems that are there, and that as a group of people who are constantly talking about the ways in which we desire for Black women to be treated with gentleness and tenderness, then to actually treat them with gentleness and tenderness. I would have liked more messages of people saying, girl, we know that you do a lot and it's not easy for you to lay down, but it's okay for you to lay down. And a lot less sit your ass down. Because I was already beating myself up. I didn't need no help. I was clear about the fact that I actually just needed a digital hug from folks. Here's the other thing. Some of y'all said to me, girl, if you don't sit down and you get sick and you go back in the hospital and die, what are your kids going to do? Here's the reality in capitalism. This is the thing that I fight against every day as I move through this world, intentionally trying to offset the negative voices in my brain. I am more valuable to my children dead than I am alive. Because if I die, they have access to some funds that they don't have access to when I'm alive. So when you say things to me like that, it's not encouraging. Because if I died, there's a little insurance money that's available. There's a little social security money that's available. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of retirement fund that I've paid into. I'm actually more valuable to my children in a dollar amount, not in all the ways in which we are valuable to our children, than I am alive. Rest requires resources. And so, as we quote our favorite excerpts from the Nap Ministry, as we um Angela, you always trying to pew pew somebody. Girl, if you and them Glocks don't go sit down somewhere, you like the lady at the end of Dead Presidents. You know, you like Brownie from Set It Off. You got a holster on every hit, my nigga. Like I am good. Please put the Glocks away. I don't need you to go pew pew anybody. We are fine over here, girl. We just having a conversation, but I appreciate your enthusiasm to help a sister out. um, so I do not want to discount the folks who have been very sweet and have held me. Like I said, Ebony um did a meal train fundraiser for me, and is trying to circulate it, but we know that those things are difficult, and it's been very hard for me mentally to circulate that as well. I am currently trying to launch my GoFundMe It has been impossible. The algorithm just eats it up. And that is not a GoFundMe for me personally. It is a GoFundMe for my organization so that the expenses that need to be taken care of are taken care of, particularly in light of me having to sit my ass down somewhere. I have been humbled by the level of rest that I need and the ways in which simple things feel like a lot of exertion. I am listening to my body in conjunction with understanding that, y'all, at the end of the day, there are some things I'm going to have to do. That's just the reality of it. Um I have really, I am trying to save our center, the Alice Fields Community Center for Black Women and Girls. And I have been trying to launch that GoFundMe, and it has been almost impossible. And so for me, it feels like a lot to be trying to get funding for that, which is critical. Um, we are at this critical pivot, and we just got word that another one of our funders is going to cycle us off next year. I am having to really buckle down into grant writing and development for my organization. The growing season is coming up. We're looking for an outreach coordinator to let community know that these things are happening, because what's the point in having all of this programming if people don't know about it? And I can't do outreach. And we know that trying to do outreach on these platforms is wholly unsuccessful. My lives don't even really pop no more. They just don't. That's just how it is. We're all getting chewed up by the algorithm. I don't take it personally. It's not even something that I can be preoccupied about anymore. I got to do work in the real world. And the things that do go viral do not move my work forward. So I got to figure out a way to be out in the streets. And by saying I need to be out in the streets, meaning like, what things do I need to put in place so that people in the community know that these things are happening? So it feels like a lot to fundraise for that. My girlfriend, Didi Delgado, who also has done a lot of work in the mutual aid space, started a PayPal pool to try to help offset some of the costs that are associated with rest. And same is, I've been very reticent to share that, because trying to circulate those three links at the same time, I just don't have the nervous system right now to try to navigate the scrutiny that comes along with that. I will never forget that years ago when I was having a good fundraising year, one of y'all bitches got on here under a Finsta or troll account and was like, I wish I could start a nonprofit so I could buy a new car. This was my first new car, and it was a certified, previously owned, certified used car. And one of y'all motherfuckers was salty that I, as a 41-year-old mother of six, would have the audacity to take out a loan. Mind you, this is the car that just got totaled 6 months after I paid it off, to buy a $25,000 certified used vehicle that I ended up paying like $8,000 in interest on because I don't have good credit. Meanwhile, I have the literal, not literal, the literal receipts of me paying for abortions, of me getting people out of unsafe situations in different countries. of me putting transmissions in people's cars, of renting U-Haul trucks so that mothers who are living in shelters uh uh are able to move their things out, of sometimes using my own personal vehicle to go pick people up from the shelter to move them to different accommodations. Y'all niggas know who you are. Mutual aid to help people write books. I'm broke, and yet I've given out a lot of money because it wasn't my money personally. Because I didn't take that money and decide that I was going to live high on the hog. During COVID, my personal account, my personal cash app saw much money, enough money where I could have bought a house. There are many days that I regret that I didn't buy a house. I'm still not entirely sure that that was not the right thing for me to do. I put that money back in community. I paid salaries consistently for 2 years to people who right now could get out in the street and talk dirty about me. Hi, Samra. People where it came back to me were talking dirty about me. Hi, Jackie. I put that money back in community. People who said I was using the money to buy friends. Hi, Fatima. And I've never bragged about feeding nobody. Y'all have never seen me get up here and tell y'all about all the money that I gave other people, all of the ways that I supported other people. Just earlier, late last year, someone who's followed me for years got themselves in a pickle. In not one country, in two. I got receipts about how I made sure to get that person out of that situation. How I made a phone call to a person that I know in Ghana, like my network, all the way in Ghana, to help this young lady out. Then gave her a part-time job with me only for that girl to come on board and talk to me like I was a piece of shit. Like she was my boss. And when I flexed a clear boundary, homegirl called my fiscal sponsor and said that the center was a fraud and that I was not using it for community, even though I have pictures of her at community events servicing the community. When people cannot get access to you, the weird shit they do, it no longer surprises me. That lady literally tried to sabotage my whole life's work after I helped her out because I said that you can't talk to me any old kind of way. Did I come online and share screenshots and air homegirl out? Did I go? It occurred to me, but did I go to her business page and try to sabotage her, get my lick back? Even now, I ain't said old girl's name. Did I weaponize my visibility? Because y'all may not be on this live now, but if I got ready to drag somebody, I know how the internet works. That shit would take off. I could do damage to her reputation. I could make her life uncomfortable. But that is not the space in which I move when I do this work. And I'm also of the deep belief, my girlfriend Tamala Julia Gordon, author of Hood Wellness, she posted something on Threads the other day where she said something to the effect of, She says something to the effect of, nobody's saying you can't have disagreements with people, but publicly everybody can see you having disagreements with people. Now, I may not have gotten that quote just right, but what she was essentially saying was, when you are in the public eye and you have disagreements with folks, and you decide that you're going to take those disagreements to the internet and you do it consistently enough, people can see that and they're going to make an assessment about how you deal with conflict. They're going to make an assessment about your character and the ways in which they might want to engage or not with you later. That your insistence to constantly vet your disagreements publicly might actually be a way in which you are sabotaging yourself. So if I'm beefing with somebody, unless I think that those people are unsafe, they are dangerous, that they are ops to the larger community, for the most part, as a Virgo, I keep my receipts. They're chronological. You ain't going to be able to argue with me about them. And so I'm going to stand on my business. I'm not about to beef with you on the internet. Because what the fuck is the internet going to do? What is the internet going to do? Girl, you know that within 2, 3 months, I gave you $5,000 to boogie your ass on up out of Colombia and Ghana. You on my main line calling me a narcissist, and I can pull the receipts on how crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, I had your back. Where I can pull screenshots if I really wanted to of other people that I introduced you to who follow up me later and said, "Is sis all right?" Rest requires resources. Some of those resources I don't have. The math is just not mathing. The way that I was engaged the other day in a moment of vulnerability, and it's not just about me. I want for us to think about how we engage other Black femmes, particularly those of us who have said that we have made a commitment to Black femmes, particularly those of us who have analysis and assessments and rhetoric around the ways in which Black femme bodies are constantly met with harshness, derision, and expected resilience. I just asked for a good word. I just asked for a good word. And instead, what I received from a lot of people was chastisement. I asked for affirmation for something that I knew that I already needed to be doing. And I think that it has become a normalized, it has become a normal, it is on the social media culture and environment has normalized this sort of aggrandizing, sort of self-righteous tone that maybe sometimes gets past us. Because I truly believe everybody came to that space with good intentions, but intention and impact are different. We know that. We all love to say it. Intention trump impact trumps intention. We all love to say it when it's relevant to us. When we are on the receiving end of the impact. I'm aware that people's intentions for the most part were not malicious. What I am saying is that the impact that I felt was not aligned with the intention. And I felt that in my body, in my nervous system. And I will take responsibility because I know that that social media and the internet is not community, but I still feel a responsibility as someone who is visible, as someone who does come to these spaces in a very specific way to reflect that back to y'all. To say that some of y'all actually did wound me in ways that maybe you didn't think that you were doing. That some of the words in all caps and the use of very strong language in that moment where I am very visibly at a point that feels like a breaking point felt hurtful to me. And that some of the conversation that we're having around rest is not as nuanced and as honest as it needs to be, and that we actually need to tighten up around that because rest requires resources. And if we cannot have that conversation and acknowledge that for many of us, and I know that I have it better than some people, I know that it could get a lot worse. And so I do hold that intention with a certain level of, gra- I do hold that intention with a certain level of gratitude. I really appreciate that, Angela. And I am actually, I, um, I received that and I'm going to actually take you up on that. So I will jump in your inbox tonight or tomorrow. But I will absolutely take you up on that. Yeah. I really do appreciate that and I received that. Um Rest requires resources. And when we have this conversation, when we implore black women to rest, we have to be honest about our own shortcomings in care ethic. And I'm not saying that um as an indictment. There are real material reasons why we might be limited in our care ethic that I've named. That I am saying that I am experiencing. But let's be honest about it. And let's also be honest about many of those limitations coming from layered systemic issues. I may be able to spend one day in bed all day long. I can tell you with all honesty, I cannot spend 6 weeks in bed. Also, everybody's body is different. I am a relatively active person who has been in good physical health consistently for the last 5 to 6 years. I have had conversations with my doctor who told me after 2 weeks, I can go back to light, body weight only cardio, not to exceed 20 minutes. That I can, in fact, drive very short distances. When checking in with folks, it's also really helpful to actually have a conversation with them, not a dialogue at them. And speaking of things that I need, I do need to lay down. I want to have some food. I've been trying to hydrate. I really did just want to check in with y'all around that and just lovingly reflect back to y'all how I received that. I wanted to say thank you to the people who did reach out to me personally, whether it was via DM, those who had my phone number and called me or texted me or left a voice note. Um, Thank you to Cicely and the folks over at the National Black Food and Justice Alliance for sending a DoorDash certificate that has helped out. And we probably got one more use on it. Thank you to Ebony who started a meal train fundraiser. Somebody did donate, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you to Dee Dee who started um a PayPal pool. I don't know how that's going because I have not been privy to the dissemination of that. I have not done any personal fundraising for myself. I am trying to get this GoFundMe for the center and for the Black Feminist Project off the ground. We do need a part-time outreach coordinator. We have a very small budget to support someone maybe for the next month or two, but we need someone full time, and we need to get this $40,000. Um, we need to get this. All right, Angela. If anything, we'll talk tomorrow because we both on the same coast, and it's 11:30, girl. So I'm probably not in the best position to talk after this. So please, yes, send me your number and we can chat tomorrow or Monday or whatever. I'll text you. Um, we need to get this $40,000 in back rent down for the center. We do have upcoming programming that I'm super happy about, and that is going to be critical to our community, particularly in this political landscape where folks are really suffering and they're going to need a safe third space. 3 Fridays out of the month, every Friday, but the second Friday, we have an open mic. It is led by a young lady from the community named May Flowers. So, you know, you're looking for something engaging to do on a Friday night, come through. In the future Fridays, the cafe will be open on those days. Um, the second Saturday out of every month, except this month, we do it on the third Saturday actually. We have Cinema Saturdays, which is a Black retrospective screening. A retrospective screening of Black films and movies. Um, we on the second Friday of every month have the Fuck Those Kids parent support group. We're excited to launch that next month in May. We are doing our info sessions for Gorilla Girls, which is a after school workshop 2 times a week for school age girls. We do a wind down Wednesdays once a month. There's a lot of stuff that's kicking off this spring and going into the summer. And so it's about to really be popping at the center. And this is about to be a really good thing for the community. We know it's about to be really good for the community because they've told us so. Because every day that we are there, people are asking us more and more to do more and more. But that requires capacity. And in capitalism, capacity requires resourcing, and resourcing is money in part. Um, Tomorrow, the farm is open from 1 to 3. Usually it's open from 1 to 4, but I do have to pace myself. Um, and so uh if that's something that you feel like you want to come out to, come on out. Every Sunday, we have open hours starting at 1, ending at 4, 5 o'clock, however long people want to go. As it gets more and more, as the weather gets better, the open hours will be more frequent. So it'll be more throughout the week. We need to hire a farmer. And so that's on our radar coming up, and I hope to do that before June. And we need like 2 paid interns. So those things will be coming out as well. And so I am planning accordingly for those things. That means I'm spending a lot of time grant writing. It means that I'm going to a lot of different conferences. It means that I'm engaging with different philanthropists. It means that I am fundraising, right? And crafting in real time a individual donor campaign. So that is what it looks like over here. In any event, I feel a little lightheaded. It means I'm probably need to take an ibuprofen, eat some food, drink some more water, and lay down. Um, Thanks to y'all for checking in and sticking in there with me. I appreciate the feedback. And to all my saints and sinners, my booettes and boos, I love you and ciao.